Welcome to Beyond Business, the program where we look at the latest trends in the global economy. It's probably the last place you'd associate with words like marketing and expansion plans. Churches are usually seen to be a world away from business and money-making. But in Brazil, religion appears to have become a marketplace, and competition between churches and temples is fierce. In a moment, we'll explore the crossroads between faith and finance here in the studio. First, though, let's take a closer look at this report.
Duque de Caxias, in the outer suburbs of Rio de Janeiro. In this busy street, an astonishing number of Pentecostal churches, 6 within a 100-meter radius. This dense concentration is no accident. These churches vie to attract the faithful, luring them from their usual place of worship to a new one. One of them agreed to let us in. The Church of the Assemblies of God of the Family set up its altar in a former warehouse. It's led by Pastor Edinaldo Silva. The church has been here for 3 years. Pastor Silva is in charge of its regional development.
And so you're wondering, but why are they shouting like that? I don't understand. It's because you do not belong to the Church of the Assemblies of the God of the Family. You must belong. You must leave the other church.
The faithful seem to be under a spell. Here they experience emotions that the Catholic Church does not offer. The church has a TV program, 4 radio stations, a presence on the internet and social networks. The pastor says he's not competing with the other churches, but he's clear about his goal to develop the Assembly of God of the Family beyond Brazil's borders.
Our future projects? To establish ourselves in France, in Germany, in Sweden. I've already been on missions to Africa many times. Each day we move forward thanks to the television and radio. We're going to build new temples.
One evangelical church has completely changed the religious environment of this country, the Universal Church of the Kingdom of God. It doesn't have the largest number of followers, but it's certainly the richest. In less than 30 years, it's become a religious empire, a real economic power.
It's not just the fact that it's wanted to grow, it's the fact that it's done so in the public eye. By installing its temples in the open, it really wants to be seen. Its keyword is visibility.
The Universal Church's headquarters are in Rio. Its leaders refuse to be interviewed, so we filmed using hidden cameras. This massive cathedral is in fact a gigantic complex. It's Latin America's largest temple. Up to 15,000 people can gather in the main hall. There is even a fast food restaurant. The church's theology is based on prosperity, the belief that money is a human necessity.
This economic power was based at the start on the gifts and donations of its followers. Money is everywhere in its churches. And with this capital, the founder leader of the church, who is known worldwide, the Bispo Macedo, has bought a television network and other communication media, radio, newspapers, publishers. The church publishes books, magazines, and even its own free newspaper.
The power of this faith isn't just religious, it's also economic and political, and its list of projects is never-ending. In Sao Paulo, the Universal Church of the Kingdom of God is in the process of building a large-scale replica of Solomon's Temple in the hopes of welcoming even more followers.
Okay, for more now, we can turn to Elliot Mourier from the Institute of Latin America Studies here in Paris. He's currently doing research on different churches throughout Brazil. Thanks very much indeed for speaking to us today. Would you agree that there is this sense of growing competition or competition between different faiths and denominations in Brazil?
Well, there is a religious competition in Brazil because there is no longer a religious monopoly that the Catholic Church held for more than 400 years. The Catholic Church, which is still the first Catholic, Brazil is still the first Catholic country in the world, has lost a lot of members in the last 30 years, which allowed a lot of new religious actors to emerge, like those neo-Pentecostal churches that the report mentioned.
But there certainly seems to be a money angle to this. As we heard there in the report, some churches, they have television networks, radio stations, and even a newspaper. They've basically established their own business empires.
Most of those neo-Pentecostal churches are very similar in their management as transnational companies. The Universal Church of the Kingdom of God is very typical of this way to work, and its expansion on a transnational level is amazing. They're now present in Africa, especially in Angola and Mozambique, which are Portuguese-speaking countries, but you also have it here in Paris. So this is a very interesting thing to notice, yes.
But what does this competition look like? How do these different churches compete? How do they get an edge over another church?
Well, you have, first of all, a competition on the religious and spiritual level, and you see it through missionary work. Most of those churches organize missionary activity to try to gain more converts. And they do that in the street, they sing, they organize gospel concerts. All those churches have their own strategies, but you also have a competition on a more social level, because those churches are key social actors in Brazil. They act in health, public health, humanitarian programs, social level. They help people find jobs. So they have all these social practices that are very important, and the churches also compete on this level.
It almost sounds as if religion is a commodity in Brazil. Would you go as far?
Well, this is hard to say that straightly, but I would say that some churches have developed this kind of thinking, of strategies, but this is not something you can generalize to all churches. But of course, I mean, we can say that there is a religious market in Brazil where you have a very high demand. 97% of the Brazilians say they do believe in God. 90% of them attend church regularly. So the demand is very high, and the offer is incredible, of course.
Now, does a church's resources, or a church that has a lot of money, is it likely to wield that power, for instance, at the political level?
Well, Brazil is very interesting for that. Having a lot of money for a church automatically means you have a lot of members, because the main source of money for those churches comes through the offers and the offerings, tithing of the members. And a church that has 1 million members, for example, you mentioned the Assembly of God. It could have around 20 million members in Brazil. This automatically makes it a political force. And you have in the Brazilian Congress an evangelical bench which counts 70 deputies and 3 senators. And they really do have a strong influence on moral matters, for example, about homosexuality or abortion. They have enough power to stop any kind of legislation that would be against their beliefs.
Now, you said before that the Protestant churches, they're growing in Brazil, whereas the Catholic Church seems to be taking a step back. Where do you think that comes from? Why is the Catholic Church on the back foot in Brazil?
Well, the evangelical, as you saw in the report, offers some kind of emotional, a very emotional type of religion, of religious services. And I think Brazilians are very sensitive to this aspect of religion. And something very interesting is that the Catholic Church now is changing its strategy. You have a very important part of Catholics, which we call the charismatics, that are now taking some of the techniques, of the religious techniques of the Pentecostal within the Catholic Church, using music, using videos, using medias. So this is a very important thing also.
Briefly here towards the end, do you think that this is a kind of dynamic that will spread outside Brazilian borders, for instance, to other parts of Latin America and also to Africa and to Europe?
Yeah, definitely. In Latin America, this is obvious. This is already happening. And those churches, as the pastor mentioned, are also trying to access the African religious market, for example, or in Europe also. Those churches are getting bigger in Africa, especially through social programs. They organize social programs which will then allow them to preach the gospel.
All right, unfortunately, we're going to have to wrap it up there because we have run out of time. Elliot Mourier, thanks very much indeed for taking the time to speak to us today.
Thank you.
And with that, we're going to wrap up this program as well. Thanks for watching.